The Lindy Ruff rerun is here. Can he revive the Buffalo Sabres? More on that coming up. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sabres Edge podcast presented by Nickel City Mafia. This is being recorded live on April 23rd, 1997. Timmy, how are you feeling on this lovely Tuesday?
Oh, wow. So we're going back to the future. Can't wait for this Sabres playoff run that's going on. I'm really feeling this team right now. I'm looking forward to this new coach coming up too, coming up from the Florida Panthers. I've heard great things about former Sabre. So he has some ties to Buffalo. And I'm really looking forward to this new coach coming up. I know he's a new guy, not something that we were kind of talking about. We wanted to get a veteran guy, but, I kind of trust this one going forward. But not talking about Sabres hockey. Myself, I'm doing all right. 60 degrees up here in Portland, Maine, sunny. Hasn't been rain for a while. So, doing well. How are you doing, Sam?
I am doing well. Again, it's kind of nice weather here. The Sabres have hired a new coach, and as our little bit at the beginning might have tipped you off, time is a circle, and we are doing Lindy Ruff again. So that's fun. It's exciting. It's got the nostalgia value. We will be talking more about that, but there is a little bit of housekeeping to deal with. For those of you who are still paying attention to the Amerks, they had a couple of games. I won't really get into the wins or losses because they didn't really matter. The team was kind of fighting for the divisional spot. They didn't end up getting it, so they have secured their playoff berth. And round one, they will be playing against Syracuse Crunch, and that starts, I believe, on Thursday or Friday.
Yep.
A couple things to note in the last two games that they played to close out their season. Both those games were played by featured Noah Ostlund.
Yep.
So he makes his North American debut, and I watched the first one, and it was pretty exciting, to be honest with you. I understand kind of the hype around him. I've also never more understood the saying that the European guys have to adjust to the North American ice than when I've watched Noah Ostlund play. Obviously, we've had guys come over from Europe on this team specifically. We have like Rasmus Dahlin.
Yep.
I think Victor Olofsson. But I don't know. I think Rasmus Dahlin's transition was pretty smooth, and a lot of the issues that he had came from mostly being an 18-year-old rookie, whereas watching Noah Ostlund play, you can clearly tell there's a sense of not understanding how the ice functions, how much space you have at any given moment. And so that was interesting to watch and gave me a new perspective about, just the kind of that transition that the European players make that I maybe haven't seen before. So that was cool. He then went on during the second game to score his first point in North America. So congratulations to Noah Ostlund. I look forward to seeing what he can do during this upcoming run.
Yeah. It's definitely adjusting from the Olympic size ice is huge, especially for skill type of players. We've seen Anton Wahlberg having a pretty easy transition over to the Amerks, but he's a guy, big body that stands in front of the net, power forward type of player. So that easily translates into the NHL. But when you're a skilled player like Oslin, I mean, you saw it with Dahlin too. You know, everyone watched Dahlin's highlight tapes before he got drafted by the Sabres. And he can't really do those same things that he was doing here. And all right, my dog's grabbing every toy possible.
That's fine. It's absolutely adorable dog. I don't think we've ever seen them on stream yet, but
I usually have her locked in the room, so she can't come out. But I just got back from a business dinner, so I was like, I can't just leave her, take her out to the bathroom, and then lock her back up again. So I mean, she's gonna be part of the show tonight.
We appreciate it. She's always welcome.
So background entertainment for us. But what's going? Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of a transition, and with Olsen, I hope to see him next year. Because it's not a done deal that he's with the Amherst next year, right? It's just his SHL season's over with, and now he can come over and play for the Amherst. Yeah, I'd like to see him in Rochester, and kind of get like the development that Rosine needed to. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to with him.
Yeah. On your point about Wahlberg, so I did preface this. I watched that one game, and now I have opinions on all the players.
Yeah.
On your mentioning Wahlberg and his kind of power forward style of play, watching that game, I love Wahlberg as a player. Absolutely adore him. I think that he's the next kind of, if you were looking for another Alex Tuck type player, really can like go hard to the net, is kind of hard to play against in corners, big, fast. I don't think maybe that Wahlberg has the same kind of maybe offensive pop that we've seen from Alex Tuck last year.
Yeah.
Probably the same that he had this year, but yeah, I think that Wahlberg has a very bright future ahead of him, and I look forward to seeing him. Another thing about his game is that there is no quit in this kid. Nope. You see, he's 18 years old. He's come over. This isn't his team, right? He came over here 6-7 games ago, and he's like breaking his nose in the game and coming back with a bubble on, and then he's making diving plays at the point to like clear the zone. This kid is 100% effort on every single play, and I love that. I love to see that. That is just heart and soul right there. Not like we have a lot of those skilled prospects who can dazzle you every now and then, but this kid is going to put in every bit as much effort, whether he's chasing down a puck or on a breakaway. So,
yeah, I mean, he's giving a different flavor to the Sabres that we've kind of been begging for. He's not going to be up next year, but you never know. Not expecting it, but it's something to look forward to in the future, and it's something a little bit different. So, did you bite on the $24.99 package for the AHL TV, or?
I'm probably gonna buy the playoffs one, but it was like $7 to watch that game.
Yeah,
I was like, I'm not watching both of them, but Noah Oslin's debut, may as well watch it. Have something to talk about. Form my opinions on all the players, so that when it gets into playoffs, I can see whether or not that holds up or not.
Yeah,
and it's kind of fun. These are players that you expect to see at some point in the future. Obviously, even beyond just like the Rosines and Kuliks, like there are other players around there that maybe have a shot. I've been ever since training camp, actually, because I watched the prospects tournament.
Yep.
I thought that Victor Neuchev looked really good. I thought that, and he kind of went under the radar during the first half of the season. I was like, dang, that's disappointing. During the second half, he's kind of been on a like torrent scoring pace. I thought Nikita Novikov looked really good, and he's held up through the whole year. He's looked very good. It was kind of actually comical watching him play because it looked a little like he was disoriented whenever kind of he had to find what position he was supposed to be in. But and he's a big dude, if the puck was ever kind of in his wheelhouse, good things were going to happen, even in the offensive zone, which is not something I don't think was kind of marketed with him. He was kind of like the big body Matthias Samuelsson kind of build, but
Got some
He
offense.
he's responsible with the puck. He can shut down people in his own zone. That's assuming he's near them. I do think that he seems prone to getting lost, losing his men, but if they're within his reach, he's very effective in my opinion.
Yeah. And he's only 19 years old too. So
I believe he recently turned 20, but started the year as a 19-year-old.
Yeah.
So
first
doing
year
it at a young age.
First year coming over from the KHL, because it was him and Neuchev that came over last offseason, I believe.
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, Neuchev had a slow start, but the second year he's been on a tear. So it's good to see these guys, because those guys were both second-round picks, I believe. Or Neuchev was a second-round pick. I don't know about Novikov. Was he like a third round?
I do not know their draft rankings, unfortunately.
Yeah. But no, it's good to see these guys developing, because I think we mentioned a couple of shows ago. I mean, we got some guys in the KHL that they drafted a few years ago. And there's some guys still that are over there that we're not able to see, but it's nice to see these guys coming over and transitioning. Hopefully it encourages some of these other KHL guys to come over and play as well. But I mean, the success of the development of these players as well, and I'm sure we'll talk about when we talk about Lindy Ruff, is, a lot has to go to Seth Appert and what he's been doing for that team as well. So, I mean, having these players develop, Seth Appert has a bright future in hockey, and hopefully the Sabres can hold on to this as long as possible. So, were you able to see where they got drafted?
Yeah, so Nikita Novikov was a 6th-round pick.
Wow.
So that's at least currently, that's kind of looking like that was a very good draft pick. So shout out to Adams and the boys, because that's a promising young defenseman.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, big body guy. And I feel like a lot of skill players from the KHL have kind of fallen off with the whole geopolitical stuff going on, and the Sabres are like, screw it, we're going to take advantage of it. So
yeah, and you know what? You got him here. He's in North America now. You don't have to worry about the will he, won't he of the coming over with the whole political situation. He's here, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
And so looking forward to seeing what he can bring whenever he gets his call up, whether that be next year or years down the line.
Yeah. So what are you feeling? What are you feeling for the Amherst this year in the Calder Cup playoffs? How far do you think they go? Because I think they got up, we're saying, the semifinals last year.
Yeah, so they got up to the semifinals last year, where they were eliminated by the Hershey Bears. It's tough. I think everything okay back there?
I'm gonna be right back.
Yeah, I'll talk about the thing about the AHL is that it's a bit of a different game. It's rough physically. You have a lot of kind of tweener guys who couldn't make the NHL, and a lot of those guys who are those tweeners are kind of the rough physical guys who can't keep up with the pace of the NHL. So it's a tough physical game. And you have a bunch of young guys, a bunch of talent guys. These are the guys that you expect will end up kind of worn down by this kind of playoff scenario. I think we probably make it to the 3rd round. I do think that we have more talent than a lot of these teams and can break through a couple of rounds. But I think the pace of the play, the physicality, I think that our team will be worn down by that and ultimately go out in the 3rd round. There is the wild card that is Devin Levi. He has been fantastic with the Americans. He looked great in the game that I watched, and I think he secured the last game in a 2-3 win. So keeping them down, Utica down to 2 goals is always impressive. So if Devin Levi is playing well, he has the ability to take you all the way. And in the AHL, I don't think there is currently a goalie better than Devin Levi. So
yeah,
that could be kind of your X factor that takes you the whole way. We've yet to see what Noah Ostlund can really bring, how he adapts. We don't even know if he's going to be actually playing consistently, but it's time for some of these guys to show that they can carry a deep run, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. But my prediction is out in the 3rd round.
Yeah. I think, like you mentioned too, we have a young team as well. I mean, I think young is a thing I was complaining about last year, but we actually do have a young team in the AHL. So, yeah, I mean, they lost last year to Hershey, which we've talked about last week. Hershey, but Washington Capitals had a bunch of veteran just AHLers in there, and they, ended up. I think they won the Calder Cup last year. So
I think so.
I mean, I don't know. Like you said, the X factor is Devin Levi. And if Devin Levi can keep this going, you can drag this team into the finals and possibly win too. So get excited, Sabres fan. I know that we had some big news with the coach right now, but the Amerks are going, and having a successful Amerks team, I mean, that's what the Sabres had going in before the 05, 06, 06, 07 Sabres. So look forward to that. Looking forward to, I think $24.99 for the AHL TV for the Calder Cup playoffs. I'm going to just bite that purchase too, because why not?
Yeah. And you know what? It's a different experience. It's fun. I found myself really enjoying that game that I watched. There's a lot. It felt like during parts of it that you're watching players just kind of trying to survive the physicality on both sides. Like, it really did feel like a bit of a gauntlet. And for those of you who like kind of the old-timey, more bruiser hockey, the AHL is fun, man. It's a fun league to watch. Now, kind of moving on from the AHL to a further down the line. Oh, you have something to add to that?
Have you ever watched an ECHL game?
Moving further down the line, I went from watching that AHL game of Noah Oslin's debut to the Matt Savoy playoff game for his team, the Moose Jaw Warriors.
Yeah,
Moose Jaw Warriors.
Yep.
They secured their spot into the semifinals for the WHL playoffs. Obviously, if you make it past those, you have like another round against the other leagues. So he's secured his ticket to the semifinals of their playoffs. I watched part of one of their games. It is not nearly as fun. I like literally went from watching the AHL game to like that night was one of the playoff games for the Moose Jaw, and I was like, this is kind of just bad hockey. No offense to those who like ECHL hockey. There's fun to be had at every level of the sport, I believe. It's a great sport in general, but I just think that there is definitely a significant drop-off in the quality of play between the two. And that was kind of a little jarring. I think it's interesting. It's a little more wide open in the sense that you have a bunch of skilled players and there's not a lot of defense going on, but it does make for some pretty goofy situations where you'd be like, man, I feel like any coach should be just absolutely losing their mind right now about what's going on. But it's a different level. So that was that, and got to watch a little bit of Matt Savoy. I don't think that his kind of second round has been too impressive. He did very well in the first round. He missed one of the games in the second round due to an injury. So I do worry that maybe they're playing him and maybe he should be taking a little more time off. But they won their most recent matchup in a 4-1 decision. So it gives them a little bit of time before they have to go back to playing. So hopefully Matt Savoy is looking right as rain by Friday when his series starts up again. And yeah, I'll be keeping tabs on that one, seeing if he gets out, whether or not he ends up in the Amerks as well, because it'd be kind of fun to see the Kulik, Oslind, and Savoy trio, because they were all drafted in the first round together. Yeah. So that could be something to look out for. But yeah, I don't think I'll be actually watching any more ECHL games as much as I'll just be keeping tabs on them.
So what you watched was the WHL?
Sorry. Yeah, you are incredibly correct. Too many blank HLs. That's on me. I've been watching a lot of hockey recently.
Yeah.
Shout out to the PWHL. They just hit a milestone for attendance. So good on them. Over 20,000 fans at a game.
Where's that at? Was that
I,
in Colorado? No,
I
Minnesota.
forget, but I had watched part of the game and I was like, and they like put up the stat. I was like, oh, cool. But I watch because it's just on YouTube.
Yeah.
If I'm ever on YouTube and I see that one of their streams is going on, I just like click on them. But
They hit to hit in that league. Just a one side off. The player can get let go of the puck and the puck's been out of their possession for like 5 seconds, and someone will come crashing into them and just slamming them into the board. So the PWHL is kind of wild with the hitting. I mean, women's hockey before they allow hitting, now they got hitting, and they're taking full advantage of it right now.
and it's fun. Let me just say, like, yeah, our team is gone, but I'm still gonna watch hockey because by God, it's fun. Just not WHL, not ECHL. Sorry, not to be mean to ECHL hockey because, in fairness, never watched it.
ECHL hockey.
That's my slip up.
ECHL hockey is maybe a tier above beer league hockey. It is so. We have the Portland Mariners up here, and it is worse than major juniors hockey. It is so bad. I mean, you've heard of Diamond Hands, right? He's like
Diamond Hands.
Yeah. So he plays in
Nah.
like an amateur professional hockey league, and he's just known for fighting all the time. That's why his hand's Diamond Hand, because he just beats the crap out of people. Anyways, he got signed to a one-day contract to play in the ECHL for a team just to get into a bunch of fights for attendance. I mean, it is just the wild, wild west of hockey is the ECHL, and that's when, like, I mean, well, UPL actually played in the ECHL, but that's why once a player gets sent into the ECHL, like your professional hockey league or your professional hockey career in North America is now over. Go over to Europe because ECHL is just a bunch of goons and thugs, and you do not want to play in that league. It is just bad hockey. It's actually worse than major juniors hockey, which you just watched. So
yeah, okay then. Probably won't be watching any ECHL anytime soon, but. No. I think if it were local to me, like if I could like pop over like a minute away, I'd probably watch some because it is a different experience when you're in a building. I think maybe the WHL hockey would have been better if I were there watching it and rooting for that team the whole year. But I'd like turn it on. I'm like, it's okay hockey, and I don't really have a rooting interest other than seeing Matt Savoy score, which he didn't. So
I always wonder. It has to be tough to be like a hockey evaluator or just a scout for amateurs because you can see a guy like just take Savoy. I mean, he's dominating down there throughout the season, but then you look at these other players that he's playing against, you're just like, is this a product of him being good, or is it just these other players they're playing against are just so bad? And then I mean, that's the big thing about the World Juniors is like you need that experience to figure out, okay, is this a good hockey player or he's just it's a moment of the circumstance. So hats off to those guys.
That's because I for that same reason can never be a scout. I love when we bring players up to the AHL because it really helps me I've seen AHL hockey a few times. I've been to Amerks games live. Like I kind of have a sense for the difference between AHL and NHL hockey, and therefore have a sense for if a player is playing this well in the AHL, would it translate? And that's like, it's nice to see those guys. And especially at 18, like you're seeing Anton Wahlberg coming over or a young Nikita Novikov, like that's very helpful to see.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, good luck to those guys. Matt Savoy's last year. In juniors, he'll be hopefully, either gets traded or he's in the Amerks next season. So, kind of need to stop playing with the kids down there. I need to play with the big boys to see what he actually is all about. So, anyways, I'll leave it at that, Sam.
Well, I think that's about it for the housekeeping. We went over what's going on with our prospects right now. So now, how about the big club and what's going on with them? Because the last time that we did speak, we got a new coach. We got some locker clean out interviews from some of the players. I mean, all the players. But how'd you feel about the general sentiment from locker clean out? Because this happened before the coaching.
Yeah. They all kind of said the same thing, which I'm wondering, did Kevin Adams talk to him before they got met with the media? Because one, they all said accountability. They all said we need to practice harder and they need to be tougher to play against. And those are the three things that, Kevin Adams said during his postseason press conference. And then the players kind of reflected that. So, and it was almost to a T. I mean, I kind of wonder, how much do they believe that or how much was told that? But you have guys, I mean, there's guys that you actually have to believe in, like Tage Thompson saying that we need to be tougher on each other and we need to call each other out and stop playing tummy sticks with one another. I mean, that was a big comment because, I mean, I think a lot of people, and I know it's said a lot on After the Whistle podcast, that there's kind of like a boys' country club feel when it comes to the Buffalo Sabres, where they're all friendly, they're all chummy, but no one's at each other's necks to kind of push each other. So, I mean, I like the comments. I mean, we've heard these words before, especially from Dylan Cousins. Now, I mean, obviously we have a coach that you're hopefully is going to push this further, but the other part of besides coaching is these players need to buy into that mentality too. So, but I'll say I did a lot what they said. I didn't really hear too much about. No one really seemed like they were too sad to see Granato leave. Did you hear any? I didn't hear too many people talking too much about Granato himself leaving, right?
Every time that Granato was talked about or brought up, it kind of had this in a sincere way, he helped us a lot and we're moving on. It's right. I think that the players understand that it's right to move on from him. And I think that the way that they weren't just gassing him up and being like, oh, he's such a great guy. Everything that they said felt earnest about him. So I appreciate that. And it really does seem like he left the locker room in a better place than he found it. And that was kind of the sentiment I felt was reflected by the players whenever they did talk about him. And also understanding that they're not sad that he was fired because they get it and they understand why it happened.
Mm.
And I think that a lot of them also, like you're talking about with the accountability, they had to take that to heart because they're part of that. Yeah. They are part of why he got fired. And now they have to push themselves to be better as well. And they have to be held accountable. So I think it all is kind of enveloped in that, the accountability thing that you already talked about, but also just kind of recognize, or as far as Don Granato goes, recognizing that he played his part and well, they may have liked him. It is right that he's moved on from.
Yeah. So, I mean, they said the words, they talked the talk. Now it's just time to walk the walk when it comes to this offseason. So, I mean, I believe the majority of the guys. I believe that this team wants to move forward. I think this season was kind of like a gut punch to them. So, I'm looking forward to next season just to see, what these guys are going to do in the offseason and keep on pushing themselves. So, yeah, no, I'm excited.
Talking about the walk the walk, or talking the talk, now they got to walk the walk. I feel like it's tough after 13 years because we've been fed pretty words for so long.
Yeah.
And those words only get you so far.
Exactly.
There was just going back to recent years. Remember at the start of, I don't know if it was this year or the year before, where Kyle Okposo sent a letter to the, an open letter to the fans. And it was incredibly optimistic and being we know what we need to do now. We're making the playoffs. And I had to have been going into this year. And
Can I say something just real quick?
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry. Finish that off.
No.
Okposo was a soft captain, man. He was just, I mean, I guess he took the dad role too much for this team because, I don't know. I great player, nice guy. I don't think he was ever meant to be a captain of this team or a captain of any team, to be honest with you.
Counterpoint. It's kind of the same idea as Granato. He is a veteran player. He's a mentor. His game transitioned into having to do the right things because he can't keep up with kind of the offensive creativity that he used to have. He's respected in the league and in the room. I believe he was what they needed at the time to help players develop and grow. And it is right that we moved on from him. Kind of the same, like I think it mirrors the Granato situation very well in the sense that now is the time where you bring in someone who can look at the room and say, you're playing like shit and it needs to change. Instead of doing the just kind of like the soft, how can we do better? The just kind of loving attitude, the like it needs to become stricter. And that is what we saw with both Kyle Okposo being removed and Don Granato. So I think served his purpose for the time being, but going forward, I don't think he would have been the right captain just on what you were saying. Like he's definitely a just too soft on the guys. He's not doing much to kind of push them.
Yeah. I guess this season really kind of like poisoned my thoughts on Okposo when I kind of look back at it because, you know, not taking ownership of the drought and all these other things. So, I mean, great guy. But yeah, that letter I think it was at the end of last season because I think it was like, all right, we're ready to go to the playoffs. Yeah, I'm sorry, we're only 1 point off, but
we got this and we're growing and
yeah,
and everyone was hyped and we all believed it. That's the thing, right? We all believed it. And it's those sweet words. Sweet words.
We've gotten a lot of sweet words. Yeah. We want to address Mike's comment real quick on there.
Yeah, so he mentioned that everything that we talked about at the beginning show was that already happened. In fact, we are not in 1997.
Hold on, there's the newest one at 8:36 p.m.
You know, I'm not seeing anything there.
Oh, you don't see that. When do we get a vote on the one goal song that Lindy is going to be bringing in? The WGR has been playing the Hurricane 2000 song. You know you know that song. Oh, hold on, I'll put it on real quick.
All right.
But it's like iconic for the Sabres during their whole entire playoff run.
Is it the? I'm trying to think. Is it the "Rock You Like a Hurricane"?
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I remember that one.
They gotta bring that song back for the beginning of Sabres games. I was getting goosebumps before when they started playing that. I was like, oh man, I remember Lindy. I think it was the whole tenure of Lindy Ruff hockey was that song too. I mean, I don't know when it originally started. Probably 2000 if it says Hurricane 2000.
I think a lot of the supplementary songs that the arena plays are like far less entertaining nowadays. Yeah. And if you go to a lot of games, it's repetitive too. So there's that. So I'm fine with changing like the walkout song. I'm fine with changing like the song that they play at the start of the third period. I still think that you're in favor of no fun if you don't think that the individual goal songs are good in-house entertainment. But you know, to each their own, to each their incorrect own.
I'm fine at leaving it at that. But yeah, if there is a goal song that you think the Sabres should play afterwards, put it in the chat. And if I haven't heard of that song, we'll play it for 15 seconds here on YouTube because you get demonetized if you play it for more than that. Anyways, let's keep on going. I forgot what we were talking about.
Rightio. So, locker room clean out. And then that leads us to, I believe it was yesterday. Yep. When we got the news that Lindy Ruff would be the Buffalo Sabres' newest head coach. So we were talking in the in the Sabres channel Discord chat about what the title should be for the Buffalo Sabres podcast, and we were talking about how this will be our coaching search episode. And guess what? They did all the work for us.
I mean, first of all, shout out to Sam. He researched 20 coaching possibilities. He was ready to go for the show tonight to talk about all the coaching choices. And I was doing my research here. I didn't do 20. I did around 10.
I mean, we were going to have discussion about it, but it was this podcast, this whole episode was basically going to be us making a tier list of just like, how we feel about different candidates. And it would be basically like 4 tiers. Like, we would be very excited. We would accept them as our coach. We wouldn't be that happy, and we would be disappointed. Kind of like those 4 tiers, and we'd be placing a group of 20 candidates in there. A lot of them were kind of goofy as well. Like, they weren't necessarily the best candidates, but it was all in fun spirit. And again, they did the work for us. So now we only have one coach that we need to talk about, and that is Lindy Ruff.
Never heard of him.
Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier, time is a circle, and the ownership thought to themselves, the last time we made the playoffs, our coach was Lindy Ruff. So what if we bring him back? We surely make the playoffs again. So that's what we're looking at right now. He was the Buffalo Sabres coach from 1997 to 2013.
Yep.
He's one of the most winningest coaches in the NHL. He took the Sabres to the playoffs in this is a lot of years, 8 years. He took the Sabres to the playoffs 8 years of his head coaching.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's been around the league a bit afterwards. He went to Dallas, where he was in and out of the playoffs. He ended up in New York as an assistant, and then he most recently was in New Jersey, where he made it to round 2 the year before this, and then this past year he was unfortunately not able to make the playoffs. So he's got a lot of experience. Even if you're not looking at the nostalgia value, this is a guy who's won around the league, or at least made deep runs around the league. He's got a pretty good winning record. And again, Kevin Adams said he wanted a head coach who's done it before. That was one of the big criteria for him when he fired Don Granato, is that it's not going to be another first-time coach. It's not going to be a soccer club manager. It's going to be someone who has done the head coaching job, who, again, has made it to the playoffs before. So here we are again, and it's Lindy Ruff. How are you feeling about that selection?
I'm cautiously optimistic about this. It's been weird because it's been very divisive for Sabres fans. You have some people who love it, and you have some people that absolutely hate it, which I can understand both sides. I mean, I think the hate more comes from, if the team lets Lindy Ruff down. I mean, he's such a beloved figure here in Buffalo, and if he fails in this regimen, like how would it look for the Sabres afterwards? And I think a lot of people too look at Lindy Ruff as well. Kind of they think of like his old coaching style where he only coaches defense, doesn't coach skill, which, I mean, that's totally not the truth, because if you look at the Sabres in 05, 06, 06, 07, I mean, yeah, you had Ryan Miller, but you also had a great team of skill and goal scorers there. And you just look at the Devils last year too, which, I mean, he had a really good, very skilled offensive team. I think they were 4th in NHL in goals, and the Sabres were 3rd, right, last year. So he can coach skill. I mean, he has that ability. I think a lot of people have mentioned that. Like, he's adapted his game to what the strengths of his players are. So No, I'm cautiously optimistic, and I'm only saying the cautiously part because the hiring came so fast. And I wonder how many coaches they actually interviewed and how many people are actually interested in the position. So that's the only thing I worry about because the whole Don Granato search, right? Like his coaching search was, oh yeah, we've talked to coaching candidates. Like, no, you didn't.
Did you watch the press conference that was released? I think it was at like 2:00 today.
I listened to a little bit of it. It's been a busy day, but go over the comments that you want to talk about, and then
So just addressing something kind of directly that you asked is that Kevin Adams, will not naming names or getting into too much specifics as he normally does, said that his coaching search and conversations that he had consisted of at least double-digit amounts of coaches. So there were 10 minimum people that he had talked to, not just like considered, but actually talked to. And he said that basically he hadn't chosen Lindy when he had fired Don Granato, but as soon as Granato was officially like fired, he was working kind of day in, day out on exclusively like just talking with potential coaches. So that's what he's been doing for the past week, according to him. And it was a pretty quick coaching search. I do believe that he did talk to many candidates. I do hope that he says it wasn't at all inspired by nostalgia or kind of like a fan grab kind of thing. I do hope that that's true and that you do your due diligence in this sort of thing. At the very least, I, like you, am cautiously optimistic that, Ruff is at least a decent coach. You've had that experience with him. You know that he can coach a team. So it's not going to be like, this isn't a total throwaway pick, even if it was for nostalgia. This is a coach that can get you to the finals, has gotten us to the finals. And with maybe a skate here or a couple injuries there, end up winning a cup, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of, at the very least, even if it was inspired by those things, you have a good coach. Is he maybe the coach that we would have gone for? And like all things being equal? Probably not. But at the end of the day, you got a bunch of coaching options, and maybe they don't see you as an option of like a place to coach. Lindy Ruff may genuinely be the best available coach that we could get to sign here. I'm not like taking that out of the picture. And all in all, with everything considered, I do think that it's a good hire. Even taking nostalgia out of the picture, like I love the guy. Mm-hmm. I see like the headline. I get the headline that, oh, Lindy Ruff's been hired, and I'm grinning from ear to ear because like love the guy.
Yeah.
That doesn't change the fact that he still needs to do a job here. You can't just because I love you doesn't mean I'll excuse if it's a terrible product that you put on the ice. Yeah. So that's kind of going to be the like hurdle that he has to overcome, is just these expectations that we might have, this nostalgia that we might feel. But in a vacuum, like taking all of that out of it, I don't think it's a bad hire. So like you, I'm cautiously optimistic, looking forward to seeing what the upcoming season holds.
Yeah. And I just wonder what like those conversations were that he had. Was he the one reaching out to coaches and getting testing the waters to see what they were thinking? I don't know. I mean, I'm a big fan of just leaving no stone unturned, and I wonder how much that was done. Because I said, I'm just getting PTSD from when Don Granato was hired. I mean, we all know that hiring search was a joke. And then the Ralph Kruger thing, I mean, no one wanted to coach the Buffalo Sabres, so we went to Ralph Kruger. That's how that all worked, too. So, no, I mean, I love Lindy. He said some great things, too. He mentioned that he's definitely had to change his coaching style from when he was with the Sabres before, because he used to dog on Vanek and he used to dog on Roy. and people were really like that strained the relationship between Vanek and Ruff at that time, and you can't coach players like that, and he acknowledged that. So that's a big thing that okay, you acknowledge that, and that's great. And I think Jack Hughes actually credited Lindy Ruff too with because before last year Jack Hughes was really considered a bust first overall pick. I think people are leading out towards that, so he credited him kind of finding his skill and giving him the encouragement there. So yeah, and I think what's a common thing with Lindy Ruff too? Throughout his tenure with the Buffalo Sabres, he had a great goaltender that whole entire time. Dominic Hasek. I mean, in the interim between Dominic Hasek and Ryan Miller, you have Martin Baron and Nikan Norton back there switching positions too. And look, you can't scoff on the points that he's getting with those teams. I mean, 97, 98, 89 points. The Stanley Cup year, I mean, he had 91 points. 05, 06, 110, 113. And then I was kind of looking just to, I was looking at the points again, too, for the Sabres. The 09, 010 Sabres had 100 points. And I can't remember the league that much. But that team, I mean, you had your leading goal scorer was Thomas Vanek at 28 goals. And I mean, yeah, you had Ryan Miller probably won you some games, but I mean, he can lead some pretty bad teams to the playoffs. And I don't know, this team has a lot of skill and has a lot of potential. You fill out that bottom six with guys that you want, and this could be an actual good team with like the record that Ruff's been going. So, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic. He said the words I wanted to hear, and now I just got to put the pen to paper here. Let's see what happens in the off season and the beginning of next year.
Yep, and just addressing the chat real quick. Mike says, when you want your coach, you snag him. And that kind of goes against what you were saying with the no stone unturned, where maybe Adams had a coach in mind and was just like, this is who we get signed, and got him. And I agree with Mike here, where it's easier to make that signing when he's got the resume that he has, as opposed to like maybe Granato, who kind of got handed that without such a resume, but. Still don't resent the signing at the time. That was Granato. So,
no, I mean, you look back to the Granato years. It was even before Granato. What were the Sabres looking for, or fans clamoring for? They want a new, fresh face. They didn't want an old, recycled NHL coach. You had Phil Housley, then you have Ralph Kruger, and then you have Don Granato. So they tried that experiment. It failed. This time around, they wanted a veteran, been there type of guy, and they got that in Lindy Ruff. But yeah, I mean, when you want your coach, you snag him. I mean, it didn't really sound like Kevyn Adams was really fully sold on Lindy Ruff until after he talked to a bunch of people. I don't know how much that was his coach. I know a lot of people were thinking he'd wait out to see what happens with Rob Brindamore, which is like, I mean, I don't think that was going to happen. But you got to believe maybe a little bit that, Kevyn Adams I'm sure he reached out just to be like, hey, so what's going on there type of thing to, nice. Hey, good luck in the playoffs, Rob. Remember those years when we won the Stanley Cup? All right, how's next year looking for you? And then, kind of got a feeling from there.
Maybe. Again, I don't think that Brindamore is trying to move out of Carolina. Well, he's been there for like the past 20 years of his life. He's got a family there.
Yeah.
I don't see him trying to move out, but it is what it is.
Was there any coaches out there where you're just like, yeah, this team needs to hire them? Was there like anyone that you had above Lindy Ruff at all?
There were a few coaches that I kind of like the idea of, but to be honest, every single coach out there has their strengths and weaknesses, and you get a sense for maybe like there is no perfect option.
No.
except for Bruce Cassidy. I would take him any day.
Really?
Yeah. I don't think that there's a coach in the league where if Bruce Cassidy were available, I would take them over Bruce. But for example, you got Gerard Gallant available, and he's done very well with teams that he's had. But you could argue that maybe he was gifted some good teams, and at the same time, there's the whole he doesn't mesh well with younger guys kind of vibe with him, and also every single time he gets fired, it's in like the most unceremonious way possible, implying that there might be some kind of bad blood between him and management by the time all the dust is settled. So like, and he also gets fired at weird times. Like a team could have just had like the best performance of their kind of existence, and then they fire him, and it's like there's obviously something like under the hood there where Gerard Gallant is maybe he gives you that boost for like a year or two, but ultimately no one likes him or something. You gotta, I don't know. I think I'd be pretty content with Bruce Boudreau. He didn't exactly have the most phenomenal exit to his last coaching job as well. Like he was chronically underperforming with that team, which we now see is a 100-something point team this regular season. So, that's a little bit of a red flag. Obviously, coaches get fired after they have a down year, so maybe that's to be expected. But I don't think he ever really did that well with the Canucks. He had his he got hired partway through one of the seasons. They did pretty well to end the season, but didn't actually make the playoffs. Yeah. And then he had most of a season where it was not going too well, and he got fired pretty unceremoniously as well. So, that's something to think about. Probably the best coach available is shadow banned from the NHL right now. Yeah. Kind of like Joel Quenneville is. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. I wouldn't want him on the team. But if he were, you'd expect the results to be pretty damn good. So again, like it's kind of a crapshoot with coaches. That's why you see teams being willing to take a shot at they're like new coaches, new faces. I have a feeling that we'll be priming Seth Appert to be the next guy, depending on how long Lindy Ruff can keep his job here. So like there's a reason why new faces get their chances, even though, you have guys with proven track records like a Joel Quenneville or a Gerard Gallant.
Yeah. No, I think, if Joel Quenneville didn't have all his issues in the past, he would have been 1A for me, but I don't think the Sabres would have been his choice.
Joel Quenneville didn't have all the issues, he would probably still be coaching Florida.
Yeah.
And they might have a cup. Actually, Maurice has done a great job with them. I can't dunk on Maurice for doing a bad job. He's made he made the finals last year. He made that team is very good this year.
Yeah. No,
he got fired on like a 13-game win streak. So
yeah. I think people were kind of surprised that they're just like, oh, that's a tough decision. You're on a 13-game win streak, and your coach is kind of in some stuff right now. So,
and it's the right move. You know what?
100%.
I wouldn't want that guy near my team.
No,
he is a disgusting person. And if you have the kind of league shadow banning him like this, it's at least mostly true. Yeah. If they had shadow of a doubt, or if they had like reasonable doubt, he would be employed right now. That's just how these like old boys clubs work.
Yeah. And I wouldn't want the circus around the Sabres. That takes away from the attention of what the players need for him to come in anyways. But just going back to your Bruce Cassidy thing, how much do you think the Bruins are regretting letting him go? So their coach made a nice decision last night and decided, I'm going to keep the goalie rotation going in. Linus Ullmark, who chokes in big situations, choked again last night. And I mean, I don't know who I want to root for that series. I think I like.
That's not a series I'm rooting for.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of leaning towards Toronto more just because I'm closer to Boston. So, and if you want to talk about fair weather fans, just New England people in general, they don't give a crap about the Boston Bruins until they make the playoffs. And then it's like, okay, now I'll cheer for the Boston Bruins. So if there's a city that doesn't deserve a good hockey team, it's Boston. I mean, Buffalo should have a hockey team. So.
This just feels personal because you're close.
That's definitely personal, 100%. Yeah. Anyways, definitely Bruce Cassidy, I think, is in coaching right now is 1A, and then maybe Mark Stone helps out a little bit too. But
having Mark Stone back definitely doesn't hurt their cause.
But I think also if like I said last week, if Peter Laviolette was an option too for the Sabres as well, I mean, I would have liked him as well. But obviously, I'm excited. I mean, there's nothing not to be excited for next season. I mean, we have big change coming. You're hoping that something happens with the bottom six. That would be good. And they're talking on WGR, and Paul Hamilton said, it's good as gone that Skinner's not going to be on this team next season. Just with the way Lindy Ruff coaches and the style that Jeff Skinner plays. So he has a feeling that there's a buyout coming up with him. Do you feel like that's going to happen with Skinner?
That is a tough question. I don't think that you need to yet. So I don't think that they will.
You think you're going to start the season, see how this goes, and then kind of determine next season?
Yeah. Here's the thing, right? If you need to bury Skinner's cap right now, you can do that. I don't know how many more seasons you can do that for, but at least for this upcoming season, you don't have to make that decision right away. If you don't want him on your team, you can have him report to Rochester. And you can eat that cap, and you can say, sorry, pal, but this ain't it. We're moving on.
Yeah.
And what's he going to do, right? But I don't know. I don't know about... I personally don't really want to see Skinner on the team, but that's not the question. It's will we buy him out? I don't think that they buy him out this year. I think that is definitely something on the table for the future, but I don't think that they buy him out this year.
Do you think he played himself out of the top six for this team?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you have enough top six talent, and you're hoping that some of it progresses at least a little in like Jack Quinn and JJ Peterka, where if you're looking at that top six, it does not include Jeff Skinner.
So would you agree with me that Jeff Skinner might be the most hurt when it comes to the Lindy Ruff hiring? Out of all the players, like this might not work out the best for. Out of all the players, this coach might not work out the best for just Jeff Skinner in general.
I'm not sure that there would have been a coach where it works out the best for Jeff Skinner, because let's be honest here, the writing's been on the wall.
Yeah.
It, like, last year he had a career year at 30 and
31.
Yeah. It was a 65-point year.
Yep.
For $9 million. Let's be honest. The point production is not making up for the defense that he lacks. And he's only going to be declining from here on out. I don't think that he has another 60-point year.
No, I agree with that.
So I just think that like the decline is on its way, and you kind of have to deal with that fact. And how you deal with his contract is kind of doesn't really matter because you can eat it for another year. And then I don't think that the coach, the coach puts him on the third line or the coach sends him to Rochester.
Yeah. So I guess I'm stealing this subject from WGR. That's the only reason I'm asking this. Who is the player that you believe will benefit the most from the Ruff hiring? And I agreed with what they said what Jeremy White said on WGR. There's like one player that sticks out to me, like this is a Ruff type of player. Like this guy's
like
the most.
Realistically, it should be a defenseman. When you implement a better system, which we've talked about system, there's not a good system in place for the defense. It's a team defense thing. When you implement a better system, all the defensemen look better. That's just how it goes. But as an individual, probably going to hand it to Alex Tuch.
Ooh.
He's kind of like got that hard-nosed game to him. He can pay attention to the details better than anyone in our top six, I think, at least. I mean, maybe not like Benson is good at that. Jack Quinn's good at that, but I think he kind of has a more complete game than some of those guys. And so he's someone who under a system where maybe you implement better forechecking, you could see him thrive. The same kind of, I think that JJ could be a very effective forechecker if you give him the right system to play under. So for Alex Tuch's sake, would like to see him kind of more involved with breaking up plays in the opponent's zone and kind of creating turnovers that way. And I think that Ruff, he said he wanted a more up-tempo style of play with the personnel that he has. We'll utilize Tuch in that sort of way, and we'll see a more crash and bang kind of Tuch that is fun without sacrificing his offensive production. So I think that Tuch will benefit greatly from that. Also, just this guy's Tuch's hero.
Yeah,
I have no doubt that at least for the start of the season, he will be giving 130% to the Buffalo Sabres while playing for Lindy Ruff. So that's my vote.
Okay. No, I like that. He was number 2 for me. The one that Jeremy WGR said, on Jeremy White said on WGR, and I kind of agree with, is Dylan Cousins is almost like a picture perfect example of a Ruff player. I mean, and I feel like out of all the players that could take criticism on the team, I think Dylan Cousins can take it, and Tuch would be probably number 2 on that team because he referenced Gerard Gallant as well. I think, I'll be honest with you, I was down on Dylan Cousins this past year, but really, I mean, I expect something big from him next season. I mean, I'm not expecting what he was projected, this season. People think he would have 70 points was his goal or something like that he had for himself, he mentioned.
Yeah, I don't remember.
So I don't know if I'm expecting that, but I expect more of a complete game from Dylan Cousins and maybe work on that skating type of stuff too. But I don't know. I feel like Dylan Cousins has an opportunity to take advantage as Ruff as a coach and kind of develop his game that way, because I think even though he talks about as like a player that the team needs discipline, they need to be tougher or whatever, he needs to be the type of player that needs to implement it to his game as well. And I didn't really see that too much after he took that beating to the schnoz back earlier in the season. So, and I don't want him being the fighter either, but I like to see him like a Michael Pekka type of player, That's kind of what I'm leaning towards him. So, yeah, that's my thought of a guy who can probably benefit the most. And then I'm interested to see what happens with Owen Power. I am really interested about him.
You know what? Lindy Ruff just came from a place where he had Luke Hughes and Simone Nemec.
Yeah.
I think you're playing for someone who has head coaching experience teaching kind of young defensemen. It might be a good fit. I know a lot of people are like, ooh, how will he respond to the kind of like the criticism, and how will he own up to how his game is right now,
yeah,
the state that it's in. I I think that honestly, I think that the way that Ruff has been able to adapt his game, this
Yeah.
might be the perfect roster for him.
I was thinking that because I was looking back at the 05-06 roster, 06-07. I mean, just in Buffalo Sabres history in general, this might be his most talented and most skilled roster that he's had ever. And you have two good goaltenders. And you have a bunch of guys that can score goals. You have up-and-comers. And, I mean, Quinn looked great. Paterka looked great. You got Benson coming up. I mean, you have Tage Thompson. You know what he can do. Alex Tuck. I mean, he's still young. You know what he can do, too. And then you have the prospect in Dylan Cousins. And that's just your top sticks. And I feel like Peyton Krebs can also benefit from Lindy Ruff as well. I know we're talking – I was writing him off. I mean, like, hey, like I want to see him play better somewhere else before Don Granato got fired. And now I'm like, maybe this guy can actually, be something for our bottom six on this team. So I'm excited for him as well. I mean, he wants to stay in Buffalo, so I love hearing that. I mean, he can benefit from a rough type of coaching as well. So, yeah.
That is someone I had not considered yet. So that's going to be a fun guy to keep an eye on because it really does feel like we're approaching kind of a make or break kind of year for him. It'll be interesting to see whether or not he folds under that pressure or if we kind of see a glimpse of what he could be.
Just give him good. I mean, give him good players that surround him on the third.
He's going to have the third line is going to be him, Greenway, and Skinner.
I really hope it's not Skinner on that line. I mean, I hope they sign someone to put him next to him. I mean, then you have
to sign someone anyway, but it's probably going to be more of a fourth liner. I think that your hope this year is that Peyton Krebs and Jordan Greenway can anchor your third line before you push them to the fourth with the up and comers.
Yeah. No, that's true. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think a lot of people are just saying, just whitewash the bottom six and bring in new guys for your bottom six. But like we had this conversation too, who you bringing in for your bottom six, because what free agents are signing here that aren't at the end of their last contract. So, yeah.
And also, like, oftentimes the bottom six players are pretty interchangeable. Yeah. You pick up a bottom six player from somewhere else and they're going to be the same as a bottom six player from anywhere. I think that the thing that separates bottom sixes is the system in which they operate in. And that's where coaching matters as well, because if your bottom six can't lock it down or like drain the energy of another team, it's not very useful. And I think that any player in the NHL who's a bottom six player can do those things. It's just a matter of whether or not they're operating in a system that kind of facilitates that. So I don't know. I don't think that our bottom six not being hard to play against isn't because of the personnel, but rather the kind of systems that we're playing. And again, we've had a bit of a carousel at the bottom six and nothing stuck. So hopefully with a new coach, it won't matter who you put down there and you'll get a good outcome.
Yeah. You see the four players that were at the press conference today?
I watched the press conference. I didn't know there were players there.
It was Alex Tuck, Peyton Krebs, Jacob Bryson, and Connor Clifton. So Jacob Bryson still making his pitch to coming back to the Sabres here.
Jacob Bryson wants it, but more importantly, might need it. Mm-hmm. That is, he was playing for his next NHL contract down the stretch. Because that was not a guaranteed thing before he got that call up. If he did not get that call up, his NHL career ended.
Yeah.
And now there might be a little bit of something. There might be one more contract coming his way as a sixth, seventh defenseman, probably a seventh, but if a team's desperate enough, and he might just have another shot at it. So yeah, to me, it makes sense that he would be showing up at that press conference because guess what, coach? I'm here. I'm here to,
I want to be here. I believe in the system.
Yeah, I believe. But
anyways, I think there's one final thing that we have to talk about.
Oh,
assistant coaches.
assistant coaches.
So he talked about was it Marty Morningway, Marty Wolford? I forgot what the
Marty
name
Wilford.
Wolford, and then
Yeah.
Matt Ellis and Bales, the goaltender coach. I don't foresee Matt Ellis being a bench coach, and I don't think I see Marty doing it either. Wolford. I hope he kind of brings in some new guys, and I think one of those new guys is the head coach down in Rochester right now, because I think that's the only way you have to retain that guy is he has to be coaching up in the NHL, which I'm not opposed to because he knows these players better than Ruff does. So to have him in there and kind of teach Ruff, like, hey, this is how you can get these guys motivated, that can help in the long run too with this transition. So I don't know. What are you feeling on the assistant coaches?
Yeah, I also am predicting that we see Appert as one of our assistant coaches. As you said, he knows the guys, he knows the room. Like, he worked with the majority of those guys. I mean, he's worked with a lot of those guys. I don't want to say the majority because I'm just not too positive about that. But
Yeah,
even in like camps, though, he's the guy who's running the like prospects tournament. So he at least has experience with a lot of those guys. Yeah, and he's gonna have two goalies that he's worked with. He has Jack Quinn. He has JJ Peterka. At some point, you're gonna see Rosine and Kulik, and I think Thompson may have had experience because he got sent down, and that may have been
under Kruger. Yeah,
Chris Taylor.
Yeah.
But maybe, I don't know. He's definitely, I see him getting the spot. And honestly, like I said earlier, I think that they're going to try and groom him to be the next head coach. It just kind of seems that they really value him in this organization. So I don't see why they'd let him go. I would imagine they make him an assistant coach for now. And then he's kind of getting learn the ropes. And whenever Lindy's time is up, you get the stage. So that wouldn't shock me too much. I don't particularly have too much of a opinion about him. I think he does a fine job for Rochester. It's hard to tell because I think that with the roster that they have, they should be doing better than they are doing, but you also have to think about whether or not he's focusing more on development, and it makes it very hard to tell whether or not it's that they're underperforming or that results on just like the kind of game log aren't exactly what they're going for, whether they care more to get players to get their game right. So impossible to really gauge how he is as a coach because you're not seeing all the things that are going into it, especially at the AHL head coaching level. And for a team like ours, where we have a lot of young players, a lot of prospects that you're trying to groom into NHL players. So I just don't really have an opinion on him as a coach yet.
Only way we can gauge it is if he coaches the power play next season. And that's it.
Yeah. Listen, we have the personnel. That is the frustrating thing about the power play this season is we have the personnel to have such a lethal power play.
We really do.
And it's so anemic. They go out, they cough up the puck at the blue line 3 times. I mean, I should start by saying they lost the face-off. It gets shot down our zone. We cough up the puck 3 times at the blue line. Finally get it into the zone, only for Tage Thompson to lose it along the wall, and it's cleared. And there goes our power play. So whatever. I hope it's better. It better be better this upcoming year.
There's nowhere else but to go up, right?
Were we the bottom of the league?
I think we were second last. I think the Sharks were probably last, which, well, no surprise.
Wahoo! We're better than the Sharks.
And I think only Chicago was better than us because Bedard.
Listen, never count out the Chicago Bedards because he's a good player, I tell you.
He's a beauty. So, no, I mean, that, and I mean, yeah, so I'm assuming South Appert's going to be up. I just want the other bench coach. Just bring someone with experience.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got to bring James Patrick back, I just don't want to. I mean, Matt Ellis, I liked him as a player because he was a great 4th-line role player. I'm sure he would be a great video coach. And same with Marty Wolford. Same thing. I mean, we need some new flavors on that bench. But it sounds like those guys. I mean, Mike Bell's keep him as goalie coach. He's doing great. But from listening to the conversations, I feel like the other two assistant coaches are not going to be leaving the organization, but I don't want to see them behind the bench at all. That's my final thoughts on that.
How many Sabres head coaches has Mike Bales survived? I feel like he's been here for a while.
Has he?
I think so. Hold on, we can look this up. He's been the goalie coach since 2019. So
okay,
that's he moved.
I thought it's pretty recent. Yeah.
Okay, that's less than I thought, but that's at least Kruger to
Granato,
and I don't remember when Kruger started, but
I think it was 2017, maybe.
Oh, okay.
Well, because he had 3 seasons in Buffalo, or 2.5 seasons in Buffalo. Because he got fired halfway through the 2020 season. So, well, I guess that would actually count as like 2 seasons and a quarter.
Oh, so he was 2019 to 2021. He only coached like 80-ish games for us, 90 games. It feels like it was so many more. Holy cow.
Kruger?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
he coached 1 season for us and then got replaced mid-season next year. That's how bad it was. It felt like an eternity that we had Kruger. But yeah, that was so he was 2019, so he brought
what a black hole.
Right? He brought Mike Bales with him. So that was his hire.
Thank you. He's been a great goalie coach.
Yeah.
I mean, he has to develop him himself. I mean, you can't bring in over like a Carter Hutton or an Eric Comrie for him to develop. Like he's gotta get his hands on him early. That's all I'm gonna say.
Kruger? Because I think
no, but Bales.
Oh, Bales. Yeah. I was gonna say Bales was a hire from Carolina. Like he's been coaching in the league longer than the 6 years that he's been here. 5 years. So
Cam Ward, right? Cam Ward.
Yeah. He was in Pittsburgh before that as well. So he was hanging out with Fleury and probably Murray at the time.
Yeah. Yeah, those were the goalies. Mm-hmm.
So
he's got a good track record. Might as well keep him.
Yeah. And it seems like he's working some magic with Luukkonen right now. So can't really ask for more than that.
You know, Lindy Ruff was asked who's the coach for the next game. He said 3 letters, UPL. So
who's the goalie for the next game?
No, sorry. Who's the goalie for the next game?
Who's the coach for the next game? I think
I don't know. It's not me.
It's him. So
I mean, John Tortorella was doing different coaches at the end of last season. So
John
you remember that?
Doing different coaches?
Yeah, like for the last month and a half of last season. Obviously last season was the one that just ended, but like last year.
Yeah.
He wasn't coaching the bench. He had his assistants head coaching the games, and he was set up in the press box. You don't remember that at all?
I do not.
He was like, yeah, might as well, because the team was so bad. He's like, might as well get my assistant coaches coaching so they can get some experience so when they want to become a head coach in the future. So
God, he is so much fun for the game of hockey.
It really is.
Again, I don't think I'd want him on my team, but I want him to be in the league forever because he just provides so much entertainment value as a fan of the sport.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you just hear something ridiculous about him, or like most recently, there was the thing where he pulled the goalie with time left in the game during a tie game, and he eliminated Detroit, which I find hilarious.
Yeah.
Obviously, he didn't do it to eliminate Detroit. He didn't know that they were statistically out, but even if he won the game, he couldn't have made the playoffs. So,
have we had this conversation? I don't think we have. How would he find? Why would he care what happened to the Detroit game, and why would that make his decision at the end of the day? I mean, John Tortorella. Do you think he's going to just be like, all right, well, our season's over with. Like, I'm not going to try to win this game anymore.
Right.
Like,
They pulled it in regulation, though. They pulled the goalie in regulation. It was a tie game.
Yeah.
There was
go for they had to win in regulation to make the playoffs, right?
Yeah, but since Detroit
Well, he didn't know.
Yeah, Detroit made it to overtime. They were statistically eliminated by the time that they pulled their goalie.
Oh,
That's why.
I don't like Detroit anyway. So.
Yeah, no, I'm very glad that outcome happened because it did the funniest thing in putting the Washington Capitals at like a minus 35 goal differential in the playoffs over Detroit, who like just out of pettiness, I'm glad did not make the playoffs. So any Detroit fans listening, suffer with us.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have it tougher than the Sabres, to be honest. I mean, like Larkin left, or Larkin was injured, and like their team just fell off a cliff there. So
yeah,
good luck
going forward as well. I would have way less faith in that group of players than I would in the Buffalo Sabres. I feel like we're more up and comers now than they are. Especially they signed a lot of they got JT Compher, Patrick Kane. That's a team they had Perron. It's no longer a group of young prospects the way that we both were like 2 years ago or whatever. So
yeah. Did Moritz Seider have that good of a season either?
I think he had his sophomore slump.
Yeah, so I mean,
he's still a good player, but at the end of the day, it's just
people are saying he's going to be better than Rasmus Dahlin, so that's all I'm going to say. I mean,
I don't know what to say about that. Anyone who thought that is probably a little delusional, but
doing some sort of drug.
Yeah, it is what it is. Anyway, that about sums it up for our show. Shout out to Lindy Ruff for making his return to Buffalo and giving us something to talk about today. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Again, Timmy is looking for a goal song that you guys might like to hear in the future as our only goal song. But yeah, if you guys want to talk to us more, make sure to go down to the Discord. We are active in the Buffalo Sabres chat little section of the Nickel City Mafia Discord server, so you can reach us there to talk more about whatever you might like. You got anything else to say?
No, that's it. I mean, I guess what's going to be our next talking point for next week?
I mean, there's still the Amerks going. We could play a little armchair GM, unless that's for the.
When's the draft lottery happen? Is it next week? Is it this week?
I do not know. We can look that up right now.
So I guess we can talk about that too if that's happening.
Yeah. So the NHL draft lottery is. Why is it showing me the 2023? That's not right.
No, well,
why don't you just give us a moment?
Bleacher Report. It just says early May.
Yeah, it says early May. There's not a time set, so it will not be early May by the time that we talk to you guys next. Yeah. So that will not be on the on our radar.
Amerks and what are the Worlds start pretty soon too, right? So
yeah, so we're about to be the Amerks Edge podcast going forward. There's not really too much to talk about. We'll have some roster construction streams, I'm sure, at some point soon. So that's something to look forward to. But that might be during the off season, as we definitely have a fair bit of time to ponder. So Thank you all for coming out. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a lovely rest of your day. And again, just make sure to hit the like, hit the subscribe, and we will see you next week.
Adios.